Hey there funnel builders, Mike here from Sell Your Service. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to attract more clients to your marketing funnel business. If you're looking to increase the number of customers that you're working with, or maybe you're looking to launch a new product or service, or maybe pivot your business and you're thinking about how you're going to attract more clients from scratch, in this video, I'm going to share with you a really simple framework that I use to attract more clients and identify what I need to work on or focus on in order to attract clients from scratch. So maybe you're approaching the end of the year. At the time of publishing, it's just coming up to the start of November, the end of October 2020. So maybe you're approaching the end of the calendar year and thinking, where the hell are all my clients? Maybe it's a particularly difficult time for you or your business and you want to make sure that you're able to increase the number of clients, or you're looking to scale and grow for the year ahead and you're thinking, well, if I had 10 clients last year, I need to have 20 clients next year. This video is going to help you discover what you need to work on in order to increase that client attraction process. I think the number one thing that people worry about is where they're actually going to find these clients. Often if we think, yeah, but I struggled really hard to find the clients that I've got now, where am I going to find clients again in the future? It's not like they just appear out of thin air. And that's very true, but we need to make sure that we're focusing in the right areas to find those customers, but also we're looking to increase or improve our client attraction methods, which is what I'm going to share with you on the whiteboard in a minute. So I've got a bit of a secret to share with you. Chances are cold calling is probably not the answer. I actually don't have a problem with cold calling, but usually I find that cold calling doesn't actually help with client attraction. If you're already generating clients and you know that you can convert clients, lead generation on the client side is really important, and that's where cold calling tends to be quite a good place to start. However, I think a lot of people try to go straight towards cold calling without answering some of the frameworks or questions that I've got coming up later in the video. If you're happy with cold calling, awesome. If you don't want to cold call, if you don't want to spend money on advertising, fine. You're going to take a little bit longer to find clients for your business, but I also wouldn't recommend going straight into cold calling just to try and attract clients, because usually it's trying to do something and rush it. Client attraction is not an overnight quick solution. It's not something that can happen within a space of 24 hours. It's a long continued process, and you need to make sure that everything you're doing and the systems you're putting in place allow you to attract clients properly, rather than just trying to skip to the end. Unless you've got a lot of money to spend, then yeah, it can happen overnight, but I'm going to presume if you're watching this, you don't have a massive marketing budget or advertising budget, or if you don't have a huge audience to attract in the first place, like you're not a YouTuber or something with hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers, it's going to be very difficult to attract clients from that. So the only thing we've got is time, and if you've got time and you haven't got money and you haven't got a huge audience, then you have to accept that it's not going to be a quick overnight solution. The quickest solution doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be an overnight solution. So with that, let's start talking about how we can attract clients to your marketing funnel business. So a couple of things first before we move over to the whiteboard. The first thing that you need to be really clear on if you want more clients is, who is the niche that you're serving? It's really easy actually for me to find clients for my business personally and for our agency, because we were really hyper specific and clear about who we wanted to attract. A lot of businesses, especially marketing funnel agencies, have a habit of saying they just want more clients and that they only work with small businesses, which isn't really a niche. It accounts for like 99% of GDP. If you're hyper specific about your niche, the rest of this process is going to be much easier. And if you struggle to find clients, it might be that it's not your sales process, it's not your proposals, it's not even your brand or your products or anything like that. It could be that you're just not specific and clear enough on who your niche is. One of the ways that you can work on that is by telling more people who you work with rather than what you do. A lot of marketing agencies will say, well, we're a marketing agency, we do marketing, we do client acquisition, we do lead generation, or any of that kind of stuff. It's so generic that it makes it difficult for anyone in your network to make referrals for you, and B, it's actually harder for customers to understand what it is that you would bring to them if you only tell them what you do. Instead, you need to be really specific and defined on who you work with. One of the first things that we try to do at Sell Your Service with new coaching clients, or if you're a member of the game plan, is ask people, are you telling people who you work with? Are you telling your network who you work with? If you say that you work with YouTube content creators or course creators or authors or CEOs who are new mums or whatever your niche is, it's much easier for people to start giving you referrals. It might sound like universe kind of law of attraction bullshit, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that going out and telling people who you work with is a more powerful referral process than telling people what you do. So the first thing I need you to look at is, are you telling people who you work with, not what you do? And do you have a really specific and clearly defined niche? The next thing you need to do is make sure that you've got a specific solution. Are you offering a specific solution and solving a specific problem for that particular customer? There is nothing more infuriating than any kind of lead generation or outreach or cold calling or whatever when it's so generic and unfocused, and as the business owner, all you want to do is get off the phone or stop replying to emails. But as the agency, you're saying things like, oh, well, we could figure out what you need to do. We do client attraction, we do lead generation. Everyone does that. It might be obvious that all businesses want more leads and want more clients, but that's not enough to start generating leads, because everyone says they solve that problem. All marketing agencies approach businesses saying, we work with clients to do customer acquisition and lead generation. It's like, oh wow, you're the only guys who do that. And because there's so many people that do that, I don't want to work with any of them. And when a customer has decided that they don't want to work with anyone within an industry, it puts you at a massive disadvantage. So instead, you need to come to the customer with a specific problem and offer a very, very specific solution for that problem. Something that's tailored to them, that is based around a process and a system that you've developed and done a lot, and it needs to be something that would offer a clear and immediate benefit to them. So the second thing to look at is, do you have a really specific offer and do you solve a very particular problem? Cool, so let's jump over to the whiteboard and we'll start talking about getting commitments, giving more, and measuring your laps. So one of the first things that you need to start trying to do more of if you want to get more clients is getting more commitments from people. In a second, I'm going to share with you my LAPS framework that I use to make sure that I'm working in the right areas to get the right clients. But a lot of the time, I find that it's not that customers don't want to work with businesses like you. It's not like they don't want to work with marketing agencies or funnel builders. It's not that they don't have a particular problem. It's that the funnel builder or the agency owner has a real hesitation towards asking for some kind of commitment. So back when I worked in like door-to-door sales and insurance sales and stuff like this, we used to have ABC, which, if you remember the scene from Glengarry Glen Ross, stands for always be closing. This has been kind of taken over and bastardized a little bit by kind of dickhead bro salespeople who are like, yeah man, you've got to close the customer. In a second, we'll look at the different stages that customers can be in. They could either just be in your market, which basically means they've got no idea that you exist, all the way through to a happy, repeat, profitable client who knows that you exist and they want to spend more money with you. You have to understand, well, what's the next level of commitment I could get from them? Is it a meeting? Is it a call? Am I going to get them to close and actually sign the deal? Often when I've done this kind of exercise with other funnel builders, they don't have any problem presenting the proposal. They're actually doing really well at generating leads, and they'll do like a dozen leads a month or something and get them through to the proposal stage. But then at the proposal stage, they always falter and they never end up getting the commitment from the customer. I understand that closing can be difficult and can be a bit awkward, but you have to make that close happen, and you have to keep asking for that commitment and making sure that it's as concrete as possible in order to get that from the customer. So what I want you to remember is, at each stage of the process, no matter where your leads or prospects or audience or market or wherever they are, you have to understand, what's the commitment I need from them to get to the next stage, and have that in your mind, have that ready to go to the point where you think, well, the next thing I need is a call, so therefore I'm going to make sure I end this meeting by asking them, hey man, it'd be really good to take this to the next step. When can I give you a call next? Or even better, make it more concrete and take the decision out of the customer's hands and say to them, I'm free next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Would that be a good time to call you? What you want is for them to either be like, no, that wouldn't be a good time to call. You go, great, when is a good time to call? But if you give them the next step, if you give them essentially the commitment written in a really concrete and clear way, they're more likely to take you up on it. Something that a lot of funnel builders misunderstand is that customers don't like making decisions. We have this illusion that people like to be given choice, and the reality is actually customers don't like to be given choice. It's a huge misnomer. Rather than saying to them, well, when are you free next? When would be a good time? You want to start with the firmest commitment possible and ask them, look, I've got a proposal ready to go. I'd love to show you what we've done with other customers. Would Tuesday at 3 p.m. be a good time, or I can do 5 p.m. You want to give them as few decisions as possible to make other than yes or no. If they give you a yes, great. If they give you a no, also good, because then you can ask them, okay, when would be a good time? You want to make sure that you keep trying to get commitments from people, and that often will solve your client problem because you're trying to get more commitments from people. And if that doesn't solve your problem, then we're going to have a measuring process in a second that's going to prove once and for all where your problem lies with client acquisition. So this behind me is a framework that I've been using in sales for a long time. I know that Daniel Priestley, author of Oversubscribed and Key Person of Influence and a bunch of other books, he uses this with his sales team. This is a classic framework for understanding where the client acquisition process is going wrong for your business. LAPS, leads, appointments, proposals, and sales. This is a way for us to be able to measure, well, where's the blockage, where's the bottleneck, where's the leak, whatever analogy you want to use. And you might take this over a period of 1 week or 1 month or even up to a full year. It's important to understand that it doesn't necessarily all translate immediately. It's not like if you measure it week to week that someone who becomes a lead might become a sale within that week. But what you want to start understanding is, where is the drop-off point? What you're looking for here is not necessarily the immediate conversion, although if you took a long enough period of time, and I'll show you that in a minute, you can start to see where that drop-off is and begin to identify like where your client acquisition fall-off is. But also you begin to see patterns that might show why you're struggling to generate clients. Leads is pretty simple. This is just your qualified people who you've got contact information from. They don't need to be super qualified. That's entirely up to you, however you want to use it. But this is where I would consider just email subscribers for me personally, for my business. But for some businesses, they have to only have like really, really well qualified leads. My advice is don't overthink this too much. Just give yourself a definition and stick to it. You can always change it in the future. But leads is basically, have they demonstrated some kind of interest in working with you, and do you have their contact information to follow up with them later? Appointments is calls or pitches or meetings or initial discovery meetings. This is basically the number of one-on-one communications that you have with customers. Again, don't think about it too much. In my case, I actually consider webinars part of our appointment system because people have had to book time and a specific time, and I'm going to have a conversation with them. Appointments is a way of being able to get another commitment from the customer. So you can begin to see here the levels of commitment we want from people. Up here, we have market and audience, and those are people like who have no idea that you exist, who could potentially become customers. Audience are people who are aware that you exist but haven't taken to that next stage. A lead is someone who has given you their contact information. So the piece of commitment you need from them is contact info. That can be done via a landing page, it could be done face-to-face, it could be done at a networking event. There's loads of different ways of obviously getting that commitment, but the information is the commitment that you want. Appointments is then a time, a date, and most importantly, an agenda. This could be for a variety of reasons. This could be the discovery call, this could be the qualification meeting, this could be the actual pitch. It doesn't really matter what you consider the appointment, and you could just kind of bulk them all together, but the idea is they need to give a firm time, a firm date, and have a clear idea of what the subject of the meeting is about. Proposals is pretty simple. This is when you've made an offer to the client that they can reject. So if we're having to get commitment from people, the next level of commitment we want from them here is, can I get your contact information? The level of commitment here is, can we have a call and a meeting because I'd love to talk to you, time, date, and agenda. Proposal is I'd like to show you the offer. So the level of commitment is basically asking them to check out the offer. Now, in our case, it might be with our agencies more a case of proposals and presentations, actually sitting down with them and talking them through the sale, talking them through the deal. Again, don't kind of overthink this too much. In my case, I actually measure this in terms of sales page visits, the number of people who have visited a sales page, rather than just kind of immediate one-to-one pitches, but we do sometimes consider that as well. Proposals is a really interesting one to measure because a lot of people, after having this initial kind of qualification meeting, they then never get around to sending the proposal. The amount of people who I know have got 10, 20 qualification calls or meetings or whatever booked into their calendar, but then they never get around to sending the proposal, that's going to explain why you're struggling to attract clients. And then finally, we've got sales. This is basically when someone has given you the money. This is the exchange. So you absolutely cannot call something a sale until you have got the money in the account. The commitment here is the close. The commitment here is if you sign here and sign this paperwork and put the money into my account, I will start working with you. A sale is not a sale until you've made a sale. It's as simple as that. Until the money is in your account, it is not a sale. And again, the amount of people who struggle and agencies who struggle to go from proposals into sales because they refuse to close and they do that soft bullshit where they're like, any questions, make sure to let me know. Bullshit. What have we talked about earlier with commitments? You need to be hyper specific and give really clear and concrete examples of what that next stage is. So at this part of the process, it could be as simple as, hey, if you sign here and give me the deposit, we can get started today. That's the close. That's as complex as it needs to be. And that's where the exchange lies. Something that's really useful to immediately identify where your problem is. Take all of these over the last year. It can take a little bit of time to put that together, especially if you don't have like a CRM or a funnel or a pipeline system, and find out, well, how many leads did I generate over the period of a year? And maybe it's 100. And then go back over your calendar and say, well, how many appointments did I have? And maybe that was 20. And then ask yourself, well, how many proposals did I end up sending out? And maybe that was 15. And then how many sales did we make over the period of the year? And maybe that was 10. You now know that one of your drop-off rates is from leads to appointments. 20 to 15 to 10 is pretty good. This is just over an example of a year. So you now need to know, why aren't we getting enough appointments from our leads? It's probably because we have too many leads coming in and we're not actually asking them would they like to take it to that next step. Something else to be aware of is that we measure ours every single week. So we have automations in place, and my VA, she actually goes in and figures this out. And what it means is we can then start looking for patterns. So roughly speaking, we do 100 leads per week. And if it goes 100, 100, 100, and if I get 200 come in, I'm like, well, that's really interesting. I want to figure out what happened when we got 200 brand new leads come in. And then another week, we might have 50. And we think, well, why has that dropped off? So what I'm looking for here is patterns. And it's the same with appointments, proposals, and sales. I know, roughly speaking, we do between 30 and 40 sales per week. So if that spikes suddenly, that's what my general manager looks for, is those spikes. And we might do something like, I don't know, 200 sales within a week, and it's usually because we're running a launch campaign. So therefore, my problem is not actually attracting clients, it's making sure that we're finding those peaks and we're also continuing that campaign work. So there it is, guys. That's my lab system that I use to measure where my client acquisition process is going wrong. I want to start with audience, and if right now you're thinking, well, I don't have any leads, good. You now know that you need to focus exclusively on lead generation. Personally, I would make sure that you have followed the process that I've talked about earlier in the video. Make sure you've got a really clearly defined niche. Tell people who you work with. It's also not a bad idea, by the way, if you want to, as I move everything around on my shelf, check out 5 Figure Funnels, which is available on Amazon Kindle, and you can order it at any bookstore. The process of going through this is useful to measure anyway, because what it's going to do is show you patterns. And if you're starting from scratch, it's still something that you should be doing anyway. Is there a client attraction method that you use that works flawlessly? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to read all about it. In the meantime, I've probably got another video here talking about client acquisition and how I go and find clients, as well as how I define a niche for a marketing funnel agency. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and click the subscribe button along with the little bell notification icon, and give me a like as well, because that really helps the channel out. In the meantime, I will see you on the next video. Have courage, commit, and take action.